Hey everybody, welcome to Techtical. Today's video was originally supposed to be Unshitboxing 3 Part 2, but halfway through filming I hit a little bit of a snag and I'll talk more about that next week. So in this week's video, we're going to go over 5 or 6 little gadgets and doodads that I think are especially useful for the average PC user and will greatly enhance your overall experience for very little money. Before we begin, disclaimer. This is not a sponsored video, nobody paid me shit. These are just things that I actually like and use on a regular basis. First, we'll talk about something that a lot of people have covered, but I don't think very many people have actually described adequately in terms of why it's awesome. It doesn't actually have like a product name, it's been grabbing and eye-catching, but it's the Silverstone Technology all-black 1-to-8 PWM fan hub. They should call it the Octopus. Why do they call it the Black Octopus? Call it Black Oct. Anyway, what makes this controller so great is that it's got 8 ports on it, one of them which is special. I'll talk more about that in a minute. It's SATA powered, not Molex, and it's got a capacitor inside to smooth out all the voltages that's distributed to each of the fans. So that's that special port. That's sort of like the primary port. That's the fan that would otherwise be directly connected to that port if it were so connected. But what this hub does is sort of interrupts that, and it takes the PWM value that's from that fan and it tells all the rest of the fans to do the exact same thing. So why exactly is this useful? Well, most motherboards, CPU fan headers are actually a lot more sensitive and have a much broader range in terms of PWM values than any other header on that board. So what this hub allows you to do is run all of your fans sort of in sync with that header, and it allows them to run incredibly slow by comparison to what you might get if you were connecting them into sysfan headers. This is precisely why my personal rig is so goddamn quiet, and I'm able to keep the microphone a mere 6 inches away from it, and you fuckers can't hear it. You'll hear my goddamn heater or air conditioner, the fan that pumps air through my house. You'll hear that a lot sooner than you'll hear this fucking computer, because it is whisper goddamn quiet. Like, you have to put your ear right up to one of the side vents here on my Fractal Design Define Mini C to hear anything. And that is because, in conjunction with SpeedFan, I have all of my fans configured through a port that is capable of ramping the fans down low enough to satisfactory acoustic levels. And on top of all that, it's only 16 bucks. It's the only one of its kind I've ever found. There's always like a catch to the other fan controllers. Like there's like a Molex connection for one, or there's like a manual switch that you have to hit for others. It's all stupid bullshit. This one fits nice and snug behind your motherboard tray in the space where you do all your cable management. You never have to look at it. It's just the perfect product for what it is. Next up, we have something I rarely ever talk about because they're usually just not worthy of a full video. Mice are kind of a weird creature. A really good mouse will cost you almost as much as a really good mechanical keyboard, and a really bad mouse will be and while a really bad mouse will cost about as much as a really bad keyboard, a bad keyboard is still usually usable and at least types. Sometimes a mouse is so bad that it is virtually unusable, and about half of the ones you'll find on Amazon in the sub $10 US range are going to be in that category. So therefore, it only stands to reason that the most difficult part of buying a mouse is trying to get into that comfortable sweet spot where it's cheap, but not so cheap that it's bad, and not so expensive that you're paying for a bunch of shit you really don't need and adds no real value to the mouse. And the reason I haven't done any mouse videos to date is that there really is only one mouse that fits that bill, and that is the Thermaltake TT Sports, or whatever the fuck they call it, Talon Blue. Here are the basics. Number 1, $26 here in Canada on Amazon, and it is Prime eligible. Number 2, it features an Avago 3050 sensor, which is a good sensor that is capable of fast movements at low DPI settings with accurate tracking. Number 3, the left and right mouse buttons are connected to switches that are made by Omron, which is pretty much the go-to switch maker for mice these days. And number 4, it doesn't feel cheap, and subjectivities aside, it feels pretty good. There are other mice that in that price category will offer a competitive alternative, I guess, but really they pale in comparison in every category to the Talon Blue. It is still the champion 2 some odd years after it's been released, and for 26 Canadian dollars, it's about 20 in the US, depending on where you look. You can't go wrong. Okay, next up, you remember back a few years ago, I guess, Linus on his channel gave everybody a studio tour and showed the work desks of all of his minions. That might have been the first time you ever saw a SteelSeries XXL gaming mat that sort of like spans the entire area of your workspace. So I was among those people, I'll admit. I'd not known about full desk gaming mats up until that point, and it hit me like a bolt of lightning. I was like, oh my god, that is precisely what I need. And the reason why it's required should become obvious to you if you ever use a PC for any length of time. So a small, standard size mouse pad, you'll often drift off the edges, and that's fucking annoying. You get one that's slightly bigger and it starts bumping into the side of your keyboard, and you gotta kind of lay your keyboard kind of half on it maybe. But the full desk mat, like the one I currently have right here, solves all those problems. You can just throw all your peripherals right on it. Now the SteelSeries one at the time was 50 bucks. Don't know what it is today because I found the Aukey version that was $25. Yes, the branding was a little bit ugly, but it was a really good mat and actually of better quality than the SteelSeries ones. The SteelSeries one had plain edges to it that were easily frayed, but this has stitched edges, which is very nice because it keeps the edges nice, firm, and intact. It's also more friendly when it comes to the machine washing. I found that my SteelSeries mat, after a couple of washes, had a lot of difficulty flattening out again. It had a lot of ridges and bumps in it, as where the Aukey one just went straight back to where it was supposed to be. But enough about Aukey. Now I've learned that a whole bunch of other Chinese companies are making even cheaper products that are even better. And the one I have right now, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can get this one. This is the CM Hu fucking $20 desk mat. It's the same size as the other two that I mentioned. It's a little thinner than the Aukey version, but there's no branding on it. It's just solid black anywhere you go. And I've actually got another one in the mail that looks pretty awesome. I got one of the decaled ones that's got like purple planets on it because it looked good and I love purple, so man. Anyway, the CM Hu version is definitely great, but I'm sure any of the other ones that are available would be fine. And the nice thing about Amazon is that their return policy is great. So if you order it and it sucks, you can always just send it back. And last but not least in this little roundup, we have the Cooler Master Ice Fusion Thermal Paste. Might look like a funny proposition to you to buy 200 grams of thermal paste, but believe me, as someone who builds a lot of PCs, it's super handy to have. First, let's go over the basics. How does it perform? Pretty good. It's like middle of the road. It's about as good as the stuff that gets included with their Hyper 212, except it's white in color, so don't be confused. And in a pinch, if you're not going for like a serious overclocking, you need the absolute best stuff for like liquid metal bullshit, it's perfectly fine. And for those of you unaware, 200 grams is a lot of thermal paste. In fact, I bought a tub about 2 years ago and I've gone through about 30 to 40% of it or so. I'm pretty sure it's going to expire before I run out of it. And at 27 Canadian dollars or just over, with free shipping from Cooler Master, by the way, not through Amazon Prime, you can't beat that kind of a deal, especially if you're the kind of person with lots of systems in your house and that occasionally might need a repasting, or you do hobby building like me. Now there is one caveat I should point out, and that is that it does not come with a syringe, but if you have any leftover syringe that was used for thermal paste in the past, or you have a Dollarama nearby, you can usually buy one for about $1 and get by with just that. You just stick the nozzle in the tip, you suck, and then you blow. Anyhow, guys, I think that's just about it for this week. Sorry for the filler video. That's precisely what this is. My regular viewers will know that. But it's kind of evergreen content for me, so it's the kind of video I can just kind of link here and there and always get views off of. So just fucking deal with it, I guess. And for the regular viewers, back there where that table is, that is going to become a permanent workstation. I think I teased it in a past video a few weeks back. Just had an electrician in, installed a power outlet. That was the first step. I got a new desk coming from IKEA that will either be swapped with the one that's here and that will go over there, or we'll just plain ass go over there. And what that's going to be henceforth is the location of my last build on the channel on display throughout the course of subsequent videos. And it will also serve as a secondary workstation for my girlfriend if she ever wants to come down to the basement and actually spend some time with me while being a lawyer. And maybe for LAN gaming, who knows? Maybe I'll have some friends over. Maybe we'll do some streaming together. Maybe you should just stay tuned and find out, because I'm super interesting. Anyhow, follow me on Twitter at OFA. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you again soon.